Today, the alleged bomber was in court. He's actually in that SUV right there, heading into court, and he pled not guilty. He was in a federal courthouse in Detroit. He's accused, of course, of smuggling those explosives sewn into that underwear aboard Northwest Flight 253 in Amsterdam. Never have a pair of underwear been so viewed around the world. He failing to detonate them on approach to Detroit. He's being tried, like the shoe bomber Richard Reed was, in criminal court, not before a military tribunal. Senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin joins us, along with national security analyst Peter Bergen and Kirk Lippold, former commander of the USS Cole, which was, of course, attacked in Yemen. Jeff, 22 Republican senators wrote to President Obama this evening complaining that this guy was being tried in criminal court, that he's not being tried in military. What they are saying is, look, in a military investigation, he could be questioned for as long as necessary, though the U.S. no longer tortures. He could, he couldn't just lawyer up, basically.
Well, in theory, that might be true. But in fact, the rules aren't really that different between a criminal court and a military tribunal. And the incredible advantage that the government has in a criminal court is certainty. We don't know that the military tribunal system will be approved by the United States Supreme Court. No major cases have been prosecuted in a military tribunal since World War II. We know that if he goes into the United States District Court, he is going to come out with a life sentence without parole, and that will be the end of it. I think that's a safe and appropriate bet that the government is saying.
Commander Lippold, do you think, though, he should be handled by the military?
Absolutely. I mean, that argument that Jeffrey just made sounds real good, but the reality of it is this administration has recognized that the military commission system is a proper venue. They're going to take the principal conspirator for the attack on USS Cole and try him via the military commission's process. I doubt the administration would do that, especially after the president met with those families in February and looked them in the eye and said that they would see justice served, put the principal conspirator through a process that they didn't believe would work and, in fact, render the verdict that we need to see.
Commander, do you think it was a mistake to try Richard Reed in a criminal court, which he was, and he was convicted and he's serving time?
I think you have to look at the time he was tried. When Richard Reed was tried, we did not have a fully up, legal, operating, and legally tested military commission system. It has undergone some of the legal challenges and scrutiny that are necessary for it to function properly. Congress has looked at it. They've tightened it up a little bit to make sure what they view as the necessary litmus test to pass Supreme Court scrutiny, and that hopefully it will still stand that type of look and be able to successfully prosecute some of these terrorists that deserve to be tried via that system when they get out of Guantanamo.
Peter, where do you stand on all this? I mean, the argument goes, if this guy has information that's, time sensitive about possibly other folks out there who may be trained along with him, or he knows about others who are receiving similar training, authorities want to get that information out as quickly as possible.
Well, there's no enhanced interrogation techniques now, so I mean, I think that argument is sort of moot. I mean, if he doesn't want to talk or cooperate in a military tribunal, that's also his option. But I'm really with Jeffrey on this. In Guantanamo, we've had 800 Guantanamo prisoners. There have been 3 successful prosecutions in the past 8 years there. Commander Lippold, of course, is correct that the system has sort of been improved there. But, I mean, why even bother with the military system when you know that you're going to get life without parole in the civilian court, and you don't have the whole question of undermining our own credibility by going to a system that really doesn't, at least around the world, certainly, is seen as not credible compared to just a regular civilian court. It's an unnecessary move, and basically, I don't think it would be politically particularly useful.
I want to hear more from Commander Lippold and Jeffrey and Peter in a moment, but just stay right there. We're going to continue the conversation after a quick commercial break. Continuing the conversation now with Jeffrey Toobin, Peter Bergen, and Commander Kirk Lippold, former commander of the USS Cole. Jeff, you thought this guy, the other day you said you thought this guy was going to plead guilty.
I still do.
But he's pleaded not guilty.
Well, just in the first initial appearance, his lawyer will want to work this case slowly, let the passions cool for a while, try to work out some sort of deal. I don't think the government's going to give him anything other than life without parole, but maybe some sort of deal where he gets some access to his family or access to, he doesn't have to be in the absolute maximum security prison in Florence. But The fact that he didn't plead guilty today doesn't mean he's not going to plead guilty down the road. Richard Reed didn't plead guilty at his initial appearance either, but he ultimately pled guilty. Look, there's no defense in this case. He can't go to trial on this evidence.
Peter, do you think if Osama bin Laden is caught, and let's hope that happens and happens soon, do you think he should be put on trial in federal court in Lower Manhattan, or do you think he should be handed over to the military?
I mean, I think it's not going to happen. I mean, by bin Laden's own account, he's his bodyguard is tasked with the task of killing him if it appears he will be captured. And he said repeatedly that he wants to go out in a sort of cloud of jihadist glory. By the way, the U.S. government has gamed this out already. They don't want to capture him. There's a very good reason for this, which is if you think back to the Sheikh Rahman, who was the Egyptian radical who's been in jail in America for a long time. Springing Sheikh Rahman from prison is one of al-Qaeda's sort of underlying rationales for its attacking the United States. If you had Osama bin Laden in an American jail, you would have Americans kidnapped all around the world repeatedly in an effort to get him sprung from jail. And so people who are actually involved in the hunt for bin Laden have told me specifically that as early as 2003, they already gamed this out. There is no capture option with bin Laden.
Interesting. Commander, do you think we've dropped the ball over the last many years since the Cole was attacked in 2000, basically dropped the ball in Yemen in terms of, in Yemen they say, oh, look, we've been warning about the presence of al-Qaeda for a long time. The government there clearly is not in control of their borders, let alone much of their country. Have successive American governments not paid enough attention to Yemen?
I don't think we have. If you look at Cole, it's a classic example of the disconnect that you get between administrations and national security policy. One administration felt constrained to act and did nothing. Another administration came in and said, we're forward-looking, not backward-acting. Nothing was done, and it really wasn't until after the 9/11 attacks that Yemen began to truly cooperate with us, with the Cole investigation, and give us some of the evidence we needed to track down people and hold them accountable. Like al-Nashiri, allow us to build the intelligence to go after al-Harithi, who was killed in Yemen by U.S. Drone attack. And it's also allowed us, the Yemenis government, in sharing of evidence to capture al-Badawi, who unfortunately they've turned loose as a demonstration of their non-commitment to terrorism. But after that, we essentially lost interest as Afghanistan grew in stature and became the focal point of the war on terror. And consequently, we have been able to see it grow to a point where now it presents a clear and present danger to our interests.
Jeff, when do you think this guy is actually going to go to trial?
I don't think he will go to trial at all. I think he'll plead guilty in the next couple months, probably sometime by the spring. I don't think you'll ever see a trial in this case.
All right. Jeff Toobin, Commander Kirk Lippold, always good to have you on. Peter Bergen as well. Thank you.